Alright. Alrighty. Let's see what's up today. Check if grid can be cut into sections. You're given an integer n representing the dimensions of an n by n grid with the origin at the bottom left corner of the grid. You're also given a 2D array of coordinates rectangles. So you start with a square, okay, where rectangles of eyes in the form of starting x, starting y, ending x, ending y that represents the rectangle represents a rectangle on the grid. Each rectangle is defined by the bottom left corner, which is start x, start y, and the top right corner. Okay. So it's kind of a Cartesian first quadrant coordinate system. Note that the rectangles do not overlap. Your task is to determine if it's possible to make either two horizontal or two vertical cuts on the grid such that each of the three resulting sections formed by the cuts contain at least one rectangle. Every rectangle belongs to exactly one section. It's possible to make two horizontal or two vertical cuts on the grid. Okay, so that means there's going to be a 9 pieces after the cuts. Each of the three resulting sections formed by the cuts contain at least one rectangle. Oh, it's either, not both, not and. Okay. Either two horizontal or two verticals. And it's not like one horizontal or one vertical is an option. Every rectangle belongs to exactly one section. Each of the, okay, so pretty much we can't width on anything, and also we can't cut across anything. Alright. Okay, this looks pretty straightforward to understand. So you have rectangles within a square, and you're trying to make two cuts either horizontally or vertically that at least compartmentalize or separates one rectangle in each section and also doesn't overlap. So I think it's just a matter of so if you look at the intervals for the heights, for instance, of each rectangle, you're going to try to cut between those heights. So you just need to find gaps in the intervals of the heights and gaps in the intervals of the lengths or widths. And if you can find at least two gaps in the heights or two gaps in the widths, then it's doable. Okay, so pretty much each rectangle is like a horizontal interval and a vertical interval. So the way that I should and I need to determine if, it seems very much like yesterday's, you want to combine intervals. So for each rectangle, what we'll do is we'll sort by let's determine check if possible horizontally. Check if possible to cut. Let's break it down here. Consider each rectangle as some vertical interval, which is their like from y1 to y2, and some horizontal interval, x1 to x2. In order to make a successful cut, there needs to be at least the position of cut needs to be outside of any interval. It could be the ends are okay. So if ends at 4, like here, let's say this yellow rectangle has a vertical interval from 0 to 2 and a horizontal interval from 1 to 5. You could make a cut at 1 and 5 vertically or 0 and 2 horizontally. And those cuts need to be worked for all intervals. Okay, so let's start with horizontal. So I think we'll so this is similar to yesterday's. We're going to kind of combine intervals, because if you think about the horizontal, if you think about making vertical cuts here, because the horizontal interval, the red box, overlaps with this yellow interval, the blue of the horizontal interval, yellow and blue, and the blue overlaps with the green, they all kind of make it impossible to make any vertical. Their horizontal intervals kind of combine. So you combine the intervals to determine where gaps are. So let's start with the horizontal stuff. Horizontal intervals. This is for like x1 to x2. We'll first need to sort by the x coordinates. So let's say rectangles dot sort, and using the understanding from yesterday, we'll use key equals lambda x, where lambda x is going to be the first element of the array, and then we need to have at least 2. Okay. So for each, let's say index, n equals length of the rectangles, or actually n is where used as the size of the overall thing. Let's say num rectangles equals the length of rectangles. So every index num rectangles in the range of num rectangles will have a x, sure, I think x1, x2, or x1, y1, x2, y2 is fine. Rectangles at this is wrong, index. And then we want to merge the rectangles, intervals. So how did we do it yesterday? We went through each, and we had an end index. So and an end index. So let's say no, we actually start with an end index. So end we'll have a gap counter, and x is equal to and x is equal to the first ending of the first rectangle, the leftmost rectangle. So it's going to be rectangles of 0, the first index 1, which is going to be index 2, which is going to be where the top right corner is, bottom left corner, and top right corner. Yeah, so that's the ending x value. So that is okay. So end x is there, and then for so for each rectangle, we're going to try to extend this interval. If the start index is less than or equal to, no, it needs to be strictly less than the ending x. Then we extend the current interval to that, and x is equal to the maximum of current ending and this interval. Else there might be a gap, right? So there's a gap. If the start is at the end, then there has to be a gap. Okay. Gap plus equals 1, and I guess index is always going to set itself to the current interval, or the maximum of the current interval, right? Yeah, I guess this is always going to be the case. So and I really don't care about the start, it's really after this. I just care about where the ending is. So start and then another start, another end. Yeah, so if the start is after the current end, then you increase the gap and you set the n to be the maximum. That okay. So for instance, if the only thing horizontally were these two rectangles, the red and the green, the initial index is going to be 2, and then when it crosses the green, interval, actually there could be no, there can't be. There can only be one, right? Because there's no horizontal, there'd be no rectangle between. Okay. So once you identify that the ending x of the current interval is before the starting x of the next interval, there should be some way to cut. And regardless, you want to extend the current ending to be whatever the maximum of the current ending is in the next box to process. And if it was something where it was like the red and the blue were the only things in the rectangles, the start distance is not going to increase the gap because x1 is not past nx, but it will extend the index to be there. Okay. And then, so this works until you have, so I think you just need to have gaps is, if gap is greater than or equal to 2 at any point, then just return true. And I think that's fine. I guess this should be gaps. And then just do the same thing for the vertical. Rectangles dot sort key equals lambda x. Using the second value, which is the second value in x1, which is the y. The y value, the start y value. Okay. And then ny is equal to the first rectangle's ending y. And then for each index in the range of the numRecs, x1, y1, x2, y2 equals rectangles at this index. If the starting y is past the ending y, then we reset the gaps counter here. Gaps plus equals 1, and then regardless, ny is equal to the maximum of ny and y2. And if the gaps equals 2, then return true. Otherwise, return false. Okay, this didn't work. So the output here was returned false, but it was supposed to return true. Okay, so let's go ahead and print out the rectangles. So for the first description, I should have been able to do the vertical one. So print out the vertical rectangles. The rectangles sorted by vertical. And I'll see if I can determine where the issue was. So each time it parses, I'll print out just care about the y. So the y1 y2 and the new ny, and I guess the number of gaps detected, if any. Okay, so sorting by the y's. So it should have been 0, 2. Hmm. 1, 0. Okay, so the y's should be 0, 0 to 2. Yeah, 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 2 to 3, and 4 to 5. Okay. So it went 0 to 2. It didn't detect any gaps, sure. And then it went 2 to 4. Okay, I think it should be y1 is greater than or equal to. Because if the starting value is at the edge, then you could cut at that edge. Oh, there we go. Very nice. Yeah. This is pretty similar to the last one. So summary, you this is basically determining gaps in intervals, where this is slightly more complicated rather than just a one-dimensional interval. It's a two-dimensional interval, but that's just two axes. Consider each rectangle as some horizontal and vertical interval, and merge overlapping intervals. And here the technique is to sort by front of interval and extend the current sort by the front of interval. That's this code, and then go through sorted array and determine if next interval extends the current interval, and by extending it would happen, for instance, the horizontal interval here, with the red one is 0 to 2 and the yellow one is 1 to 5, and you extend it if the start of the horizontal interval is before the end of the current horizontal interval. Determine if the next interval extends the current interval or creates a gap, which is extend is start x, or start, we'll just say x is before the end of current x, and x of current. And if it, okay. Here the time complexity is just going to be pretty straightforward. It's n log n, O of n log n, because you need to do a sort. And O of n to process the array. You go through each once. And the space complexity is constant. There's no additional space since you're sorting in place. I guess time complexity, you do go through the arrays twice, once horizontally, once vertically, in the worst case. But 2 times n is just still overrun. Alright, cool beans.